Now we are going to begin with room number 1. This room is called the Settlement of America. And this exhibit is designed to provide an idea of how human evolution started from prehistoric times, how different types emerged, and how human evolution progressed throughout the world. So something very important for us, or rather, something very important that we need to understand, is how this process of change takes place, how these changes occur in the world. On the left side, we have a map displaying the Earth's geography, climate, and primates. The official version of human evolution and development is presented in this room. The explanation focuses on how various types of primates have changed and evolved over time, from early examples like the Australopithecus to modern humans, Homo sapiens sapiens. The development of the brain, spine, hair, and even the way humans stand has changed depending on their habits and movements. It's important to remember that these are nomadic groups that feed on different things, including the food they find and the animals they hunt. Thanks to this evolution, we arrive at the beginning of Homo sapiens sapiens. One of the first things we can distinguish in this evolution is the point at which humans start developing certain feelings, such as the feeling of loss. This feeling is crucial, as when someone dies and humans become aware of it, it becomes a pivotal moment. A sense of belonging to oneself, the community, family, and environment emerges. This leads to burials where initially people would leave the deceased by the roadside, but over time, offerings, flowers, and textiles started to be left. Analyzing these burials allows us to understand the sense of loss, hence the importance of the burials at the center of the room. Moreover, across different rooms, we find murals that are part of Mexican muralism. This artistic expression is important to convey Mexican identity and the significance of pre-Hispanic cultures to Mexicans. The central mural in the upper part of the room depicts various figures, including Olmec heads, the eagle, and the serpent, as well as pyramid structures. Just as we discussed earlier, the significance of trees is also present, representing the ceiba tree located in southern Mexico, which is connected to the 3 levels symbolizing the world of pre-Hispanic cultures. We also see corn because it's essential to the diet of the early civilizations of the Americas. Let's look at a panel called Domestication, Languages, and Villages. To understand human evolution, we must first understand that all languages around the world are represented in this panel. Some key languages, like the Macro-Maya, are highlighted on the central map of Mexico, along with other languages from Africa, India, and Asia. This helps us understand human evolution in the Americas, especially in Mesoamerica, based on their diet. These nomadic groups, unable to produce their own food, are in constant motion, hindering the development of agricultural methods. This is where the importance of corn and beans in Mexico and the Americas comes in. Comparing food sources worldwide, from Asia to North America, Mesoamerica, and South America, shows that by 11,000 BCE, Asia was already cultivating wheat, barley, and domesticating animals. In comparison, Mesoamerica began the presence of corn around 5,000 or 6,000 BCE. While this table is not yet updated, we know that the appearance of corn in Mesoamerica dates back to 7,000 or 8,000 BCE. It's interesting to analyze how nomadic groups developed in Mesoamerica. Closing this table, we find a mural by José González Camarena, created in 1964. In this mural, we see a configuration of different women from around the world. This plastic or artistic expression is part of Mexican muralism and showcases the diversity of humanity. On the left side, there's a panel with different types of skulls. These skull types represent the differences among each individual in the world, whether in jaw size, skull size, or brain cavity volume. This comparison allows us to see the diversity of cultures across the world. Perhaps with a larger jaw, perhaps with a larger skull, or with a smaller brain cavity. Here, a comparison of the different cultures of the world is taking place. After finishing the food panel, we'll move on to the second part of the Settlement of America. where we increasingly see that these groups are starting to have a clear process of civilization, in which there's already a method of building houses and a method of survival. Initially, perhaps there wasn't such a clear organization. We will also see the migration of humans to America. Obviously, in this, we will have a panel that specifies or explains how it happened, how the crossing of the Bering Strait occurred. Currently, this hypothesis is probably the most official hypothesis. It's what we could call the official version of how humans came to this continent. In the table, we'll see how the climate changed, what it was due to, how certain animals and humans crossed. We will also see the presence of large or megafauna, which are large animals found all over the continent, like the mammoth. The mammoth would be the most important animal in the center of the country, maybe not the most important, but the one for which we found remains in the center of the country. Since large mammals like mammoths lived on the shores of the Great Lake Texcoco, we have a Lake Texcoco in the center of Mexico. It's important to recognize that there's a large lake, that this large lake is in the center of Mexico City, and it's a source of food and water for many species, like the mammoth, or the tiger, the large tiger. The saber-toothed tiger that you see as part of this megafauna that existed in Mexico before, let's say we're talking about around 20,000 or 30,000 years before our era, we continue to see, we have other tables where we can see others as evolution continues. And we will arrive at one called main domesticated plants. As we said, corn is the first thing we find. And from the domestication of corn, our groups can settle in one place. This place of settlement allows them to create new ways of life that will change completely. Why? Because at first these nomadic groups, when they find or are able to produce their own food, they can spend more time in one place. Spending more time, these groups begin to grow. If we have a moving group of 50 people, 20 to 50 people, by being able to domesticate their food, these groups of 20 to 50 people become groups of 300, 400, 500 people. Why? Because they can. They can start building houses in caves. They can build houses that protect them. They can cook with fire. And with the domestication of the plants we'll see next, they can produce food without having to depend on hunting or constant movement. One of the most important foods is the squash. The magia is a type of agave that produces liquids, a very important liquid called agave sap, which serves as a great source of protein-rich food. It can also be used to create fibers and textiles, or even for crafting tools. The maguey's spines are used to weave textiles. But regarding food, we have squash, avocado, chili, plum, the fruit that comes from the nopal, which is the prickly pear. We have amaranth, we have zapote, we have bisnaga, or beans. All these forms of food are very important because they enrich their diet, which allows them to have a higher quality of life. Another important thing we can observe is that the human lifespan increases due to the richness of these diets. Now, we will move on to the next room.